Rivers State in Nigeria's South-South region ranks as one of the world's biggest oil-producing areas. It accounts for 10% of Nigeria's GDP and produces 40% of the nation's crude oil. It is also Nigeria's sole exporter of liquefied natural gas. Under Governor Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi's administration, the state has undergone various transformations over the past 6 years. The focus has been on key sectors like education, health, power, infrastructure, and agriculture, to name a few. Governor Amaechi has forged ahead with his plan to steer Rivers State away from its single-income economy. An official review revealed the state government owned a total of 40 hospitals and over 400 primary healthcare facilities. But poor maintenance led to the decay of the physical infrastructure. The State Ministry of Health stepped in to stop the decline. The plan focused primarily on infrastructure and manpower development, looking at the sector one level at a time. The Rivers State electricity generation capacity exceeds 400 megawatts, with more capacity being added. Under Governor Amaechi's leadership, the state attracted an independent power generator to establish a plant at Afam. The aim is to have 24-hour power supply throughout the state by the end of 2013, and for the state's capital, Port Harcourt, to have 24-hour uninterrupted power by the end of the year. Governor Amaechi believes these goals are more than achievable considering how far they have already gone.
Having lived in Rivers State all his life, and having been part of the generation that saw what I would call the gradual deterioration of values and infrastructure, the gradual decay, coming from where the first governor of Rivers State had left it, the issues of infrastructure decay, and coming from a generation that saw education gradually go downhill. It was clear to him that we needed to restore the glory, if you like, of Rivers State, and take us back to, if we couldn't get beyond where Dieter Spieth was, but at least to get back to the Rivers State where people had good education, where there were health facilities that worked, where you had infrastructure that made it a delightful city for people to visit, where you had security and peace, and therefore, beyond business, Port Harcourt was the destination for people who wanted to relax and have fun. And so it was about, how do I restore the treasure base? How do I restore the garden city? How do I bring back the beauty? And the first thing he noticed was the fact that education, like I said, had not just gone downhill, but was almost no longer existent. Foundations had been broken. Primary education was abysmal. Secondary education was worse. We were having, yes, we were an educationally disadvantaged state, but we were recording terrible, terrible failures in external examinations. And there was a need to immediately redress that if you were going to have a crop of people that could be said to be developed. And so if you notice, that's why his key areas of intervention were education, health, infrastructure, and power. We talked about health, and again, it was a bottom-up approach, dealing with the issue of primary health care. Because one of the things we found is that maternal mortality and infant mortality can be curtailed if you deal with primary health care. And if you do with health education, that's going on. At the top end is the fact that we're really thinking that we can earn income from medical tourism. So at the top end of our medical plan, of our medical program, is to have a sector where we can deliver world-class medical services, and we can begin to deal with the issue of medical tourism. So rather than take all of that money abroad to India and to the US and to the UK, there can be a movement towards Port Harcourt, you know, and it's kind of faster. So if you live anywhere in the country, it's just easy to get into Port Harcourt and to get your medical services. And so that's an area we look at. So at the top end of our medical plan is to have that. Of course, we are currently, by this year's budget, addressing the issue of secondary healthcare. 2 secondary healthcare facilities are already up and running. They Kelsey Harrison Hospital is up and running. It's a 120-bed hospital. There's also the dental and maxillofacial hospital, which is up and running. We would be building 3 new hospitals in the 3 senatorial districts. All of these will be 120-bed hospitals and to cater for, and with the same kind of world-class equipment that you find at Kelsey Harrison. There's a plan for the Mother and Child Hospital. In the area of training, we are building the School of Nursing, which is now in the place where you used to have the former UPTH, Old General Hospital. With regards to power, tremendous work has been done. Generation, we've dealt with the issue of generation. We supported the first power distribution company, and so that we could deal with the issue of distribution. We have injection substations, about 25 of them completed out of the planned 28 that we're building. We have seen improvements in power, and the idea is to be able to deliver on 24-hour power supply.
The Rivers State Ministry of Commerce and Industry was previously considered a ghost ministry. Although fully staffed, its output was minimal. The department plays a crucial role as a regulator of businesses in the state by providing incentives like the Business Place Registration Law. We sat down with Rivers State Commissioner of Commerce and Industry, Chuma Chinye, to find out how the ministry has been turned around and the impact it is having on the state.
On the part of government as a whole, nobody paid attention to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It was just one of those places that filled the number. And it didn't matter really what it existed, because for 2 consecutive fiscal years before I came, the ministry had not received 1 kobo budgetary allocation. And so I began some level of advocacy, first of all, internally within the government, at every opportunity in the Executive Council and at government retreats and functions, to draw attention to the fact that this is an important ministry, because our job essentially is to serve as a regulatory body for businesses in the state, and to serve as an agency to promote and drive government external investment into the state, both from the macro Nigerian economy and internationally. And I think it began to yield results not too long after, because within the first 6 months of my coming here, the Executive Council approved my request for us to review the implementation of the Registration of Business Places law, and give me an approval and give funds for it. So for the first time in the history of this ministry, we began to truly implement the Registration of Business Places law, which is a 1976 law. And believe me, before that date, nobody really cared. But it was worrisome, because one of the challenges that Nigeria as a whole faces is that we don't have data. And that law is intended to build data of businesses in Rivers State. And so we were able to start an automated system that enables us capture business places. Now, what do we do? Because our people did not know how to go about that, we had to embark on a massive publicity campaign using billboards, using the print and electronic media, and also sending out our staff to the street. We purchased 11 vehicles which will serve the business places inspectors. And then we set up an implementation committee. And then we also set up a data room for processing of the data that we will gather. And this is online, real time, in the sense that if you are served a demand notice, you could just scratch the space provided for it. You see the PIN number. You could confirm whether it is authentic from the ministry by simply dialing any of those numbers. And if you walk into any bank that does business in Rivers State and say you want to make a payment to the government of Rivers State, they have a general platform through which you can make the payment which is requisite for registration of your place of business. And when you do that, from our office here, we will know exactly, immediately, that you have made payment. And that entitles you to come with your slip to the ministry to collect your certificate of registration. And as I speak with you, we have been able to issue certificates to about 3,000 companies, but we have been able to capture data of close to 25,000 companies in the state. And with that data now, we are embarking on the production of the Rivers State Business Directory, which is commonly referred to as Yellow Pages. I understand that the last time this was done was about 25 years ago. And because we now have data to do so, we are in the process of doing so. The only delay that we now have is that we need to source for advert placement into that document, because you imagine a newspaper or any kind of journal without adverts, it's going to look dry and empty. So we have done about 50–60% of the work. It will be a 2013 and 2014 edition. By the time I leave here, we're able to say we're able to get to the point where if anybody wishes to start a business, he first asks, where is the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and comes here to be guided. Or somebody needs a help with going to Abuja to do a business or traveling abroad to do business, then I can say that we have done